Okay, so challenge recap time. I'm afraid I didn't record the gameplay on the day because I'd just moved. I spent in between rounds unpacking, and I did spend the afternoon in the pub. So there was multiple reasons why I wasn't really in a recording mood on Saturday evening. But I just wanted to play a few card games. I'm a bit concerned about the next month with Squee post Vexing Bauble. I think it's going to be a total shit show for Squee. So it looks like we'll be back to dredge and that sort of thing. Um, but I thought I'd give it one last go. My general plan for the evening was to 0-2 or 1-2 drop the challenge, but I would have at least got to play Squee. Instead, we crushed through. Well, I say we crushed. Um, we didn't mulligan a lot, and then we came fourth. So this is the list that we played. One big note that people noticed was I played a copy of Library of Alexandria, or the corner shop um, of Baghdad. So why would you play Library of Alexandria in Squee? One of the big reasons is it's very good when you're getting wastelanded a lot. It can push you through your deck. You can draw up 7. You can pick up a couple of squeeze, and then now with the Poxwalkers, you can push yourself to 8 cards in hand, discard a lizard on end step, or discard a Poxwalkers on end step, and slowly work to a board state that way. You can also get up to 7 and then activate library in your upkeep, and then your draw step will push you to 9 cards, and then you can discard 2 lizards, and you can get your Vengevines back. So it's good when we're getting wastelanded a lot, which means it's additional card draw against the Lurus decks, and it's additional card draw against the workshop decks if those exist. And then it's also very good if you're expecting Squee mirrors, which we are not. So it goes. But there's also a large element of I think library's cool. I think library's fun. And I wanted to play library. So there we go. I played a main deck Fury over the 4th Poxwalkers. I think having main deck interaction for creatures is worthwhile. Some people have Pyrokinesis, but I still like Fury's ability to trigger a Vengevine. So that's why we're there. Everything else is pretty normal. 0 ley lines post board. I prefer traps when there's not a lot of squee going around. When there's squee on squee matchups, you want the ley lines because the traps aren't going to be enabled by 2 lizards. But when your bizarre opponents are mostly just playing dredge, Ravenous Trap is much better because it doesn't die to Vigor. They usually take out all their blue cards, and you're just going to cruise through the dredge matchup. 2 Surgicals, just to complement that. I think they could be Endurances, but Surgical is 1 card. 3 more Furies. Caracas, because people play Oath of Druids and Lavinia, and that's that. Echoing Deeps, because people play Wasteland. That's the deck. Okay, so round 1, and we start off with the action quite quickly. So we're up against Usunk. We're going to take some mulligans and go and find Bazaar. We still haven't done that, and we're at 3 cards here, I think, or this is the 4. So we try and keep some wastelands in our deck and a bit of threats. Nothing good on 4. Nothing good on 3 either, so keep some stuff. And we found the Bazaar on 2. I'm not sure what you're supposed to keep here. I think the arguments are like Lizard, Bazaar, or Bazaar, Noxious, or Bazaar, Poxwalkers. I keep Bazaar Poxwalkers, which I think is my least favourite option. Oh, I even dilly and dally around actually. So I think that's my least favourite option of those 3. I think I much prefer Bazaar Lizard or Bazaar Noxious. Problem with Bazaar Noxious is it means that you're just discarding a Noxious straight away. But if your opponent presents a Wasteland or something, then you'll be pleased to have it. I keep Bazaar Poxwalkers, which is my least favourite of those 3. In retrospect, I think Bazaar Lizard is the best one. And this is a close fought battle in the end, because I've mulliganed to 2. And then my opponent leads Opal, Pearl, Jet, Emerald, Academy, which is pretty good. And then they play a Coveted Jewel, which will appear on screen at some point in the future, I'm sure. I know we've got to work out how to do that. So Coveted Jewel, they draw 3 cards, and then they declare themselves a Metamorph, and we go to game 2. So a great start, just how we drew it up. A quick mulligan to 2, and then dead on 1. Okay, so round 2, we're up against Usunk. We powder to start with. We lose our chalice and 2 forces. We keep this 7 with two hollow ones, and then we draw it into the absolute world there. So a blue card to pitch and a mind break track to back it up, and we've got 12 power on turn 1. So this is what you want to do against Duel. A clock, but also just hit all the blue cards basically. Duel's very close to a glass cannon deck. Their biggest threat against you is Worm Coil Engine post board. So they start off with an Ancestral, we let it go apparently. I think I'm just here to counter payoffs. So there's a Tinker, we trap that and we get a concession. Against Duel, I'm typically going to be trimming things like that Fury, the Noxious I think I trim, and then maybe a Poxwalkers or 2. But yeah, so far 2 basically turn 1 wins in this match. Welcome to Vintage, I guess. Sometimes this is what happens. Game 3 then, in round 1. I'm going to show you all of round 1. Game 1 made me laugh. And in this one we keep the world as well. So here we've got a Bazaar on 7. Opponents on the play. We've got a Bazaar on 7. Force of Will, blue card, trap, or misstep, force of will, or misstep, trap. Whatever they don't achieve now, we can chalice later. And then we've also got like 1 easy discard, an answer to a saga. Like we've just got everything we can ever want on a keep on 7 against Bazaar, against Duel, sorry. Like this is the sort of hand that I look at and think this is unbeatable. The last one, you know, it's just a force of will or something and it can sort of break down. But this feels really unbeatable. Opponent starts on jet, plays a top, we misstep it, and then the dream comes true and they play a tap land on turn 1. So they've got 3 cards in hand after their mulligan, they've got no search with their top, and we're about to really lock them out of the game. We draw a library, which I think looks great to discard. Oh no, we've just got a creature. So lizards come in. That was like the nut high, right? Just 1 lizard into 6 power. And then we get to post combat a chalice. Opponent's got 3 cards. They play Mana Vault. They cast Tinker. We force it. That's there. Then they play a Saga. And then now they're like as good as dead really in this sort of spot. But we'll still keep churning. And now we keep Wasteland Trap in for our 6 points of damage. And the opponent really needs to top deck a 1 ring or something like that here. So Time Walk is a card that draws them a card. Does literally nothing else in this spot. Ancient Tomb, no 1 ring, and then basically the game is ours. We get to filter again, keep blue card, and yeah, that's round 1 really. Opponent takes another draw step and calls it a day. So round 1 was fun. It's the exact matchup you want when you're playing Squee. Yes, you're exposed when they win the die roll, as we saw in game 1. They can turn 1 you, and if you haven't had the opportunity to filter with your Bazaar, there's a good chance you don't have the relevant protection. But the moment you do, it's usually plain sailing like this. Post-board things to be aware of against Duel is the fact that they will bring in Worm Coil engines. Sometimes they'll bring in the Master Core thing, which isn't nearly as good as a Worm Coil, but it's still pretty thick. And then they also do have needles. That's why you see the post-board mental misstep as well. Usually, previously against the shop decks, you'd be taking out the misstep, but in this Saga era, the misstep has to stay in. So that's round 1. Let's go to round 2 and see what happened there. Okay, so round 2 then. We won round 1. We're up against Trunks 132, and we mulligan to 6 and keep this hand, which is just all aggression. Right, so we're guaranteed a turn 1 Vengevine with 2 lizards and a hollow one, and then next turn we're going to wasteland them and pray. We don't know what the opponent's playing, but nice mulligan to 6, and we draw Poxwalkers, which means we can put a little bit more power into play, holding the green lizard here so that we've got a card to draw to Vigor. So we're only playing 1 Fury, so that's why we held the green one there. So we get in for our 4 points of damage. We've got a Noxious as our tiny little piece of interaction this turn. That's not a lot of interaction though. So they play Sapphire, Saga, Soul Ring, and then they Sorcery Speed a Whole Breacher. I'm not sure how I feel about Sorcery Speed a Whole Breacher in this spot. I feel like you can kind of get me, right? Like, It looks like you've just deployed mana. Maybe I can sniff out a Hull Breacher and just be like, I'm so exceptionally ahead on board, it doesn't matter. I'll just wasteland you, sort of thing. So yeah, maybe I can sniff one out. I don't know, but I'm not sure how I feel about the sorcery speed. I prefer it, I think, in response to the Bazaar activation on my turn. But so it goes. So that's what opponent does, and it's on to us on our turn 2. We draw for the turn. We get a force, and we've got not got anything else really to do other than just attack and kill the Saga. So that's what we do. They eat the lizard, and we wasteland them, and we're just horribly exposed to a time twister here. So opponent's turn is to play Pearl, look with top. Okay. Play Pearl, play top, activate top, and then yeah, the one thing we're really concerned about here is the time twister. Opponent then plays land from hand, activates top to draw a card. They've got 3 mana open, so I go ahead and Noxious the Saga because the Saga doesn't beat us here. A time twister almost assuredly does. Okay, so round 2, game 2, we're up against Trunks again. Well, still, and this time we just powder straight into it. And opponent goes Mox, Mox, Saga. Crucially though, neither of those are blue Moxes, so we don't have to think about Hull Breacher right now. We get a free activation on our Bazaar, and the information of Hull Breacher is going to dictate a lot of our plays here. So we draw the World in Force of Vigor and a blue card, which means we get to discard Lizard, Lizard, Master. So we've got threats and engines going. In their upkeep, we're going to get rid of the Mox that they can cast spells off of and the Saga. They force, we force back. Then they play a Wasteland, they waste me, but I've still got a Noxious. So just one of those hands where we activated Bazaar once, everything lined up perfectly. We get a Master back, we draw our Bazaar for the turn. And then here, for example, I flip straight away, because I don't need them to go, you know, play a Lotus, have Hull Breacher up. So this is why you'll see me sorcery speed for this whole game. They develop another Saga, we get back a Squee. And here I keep the... So just there, oh god, I hate this program. So just there, okay, the first activation on Bazaar, I drew into Mindbreak Trap, Bazaar of Baghdad. They were the 2 options to keep. I discarded the trap and kept the second Bazaar. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that's what I did. I feel like there's an argument that I can just keep trap there, and then you know, I'm surviving another turn, and then I can, you know, slowly build up this card advantage engine rather than just getting another Bazaar, which means I'm basically committing to the rest of the game of having next to no cards in hand. That's what I did. I think I prefer keeping a trap. Maybe my consideration, I think, is they've got 1 card, trap's never online, so that makes sense as well. Yeah, okay, maybe I like it more actually. Trap's never online, but then I also know that they're going to get to their Saga. I think that's interesting actually. I wish I had the capability of pausing it on screen, but hey ho. We kept the second Bazaar. We gave it another flip so that they can't Hull Breacher us. They've got 1 card in hand, and I think that's my tie break there that was used. And we're going to attack them for 6. We did make another Lizard on the way through this turn. Goes to the opponent's turn, and we have to contend with the fact that they're now going to develop now they're going to have an active Saga. So it comes back to us with 2 Squees on the stack. I activate one of my 2 Bazaars, flipping a 3rd Squee and a Force of Will. So that happens. And then I pick up my other 2 Squees, so I've got good selection on this turn. Right, so Squee comes back, draw step, we hit a Lizard, we activate the Bazaar, and we find another Lizard and a Force of Will. So that basically means that we've now got like ample pressure to get around this Saga, I think. So what we attack this turn, they take 3. Yeah, I think we can get around it with our stuff, and now we've got a Force of Will behind. So In we get for 7. Opponent makes a Saga token, and the Saga token is going to eat a lizard, which I thought was interesting. I guess it has 2. They go to 1, and then from here, their Saga resolves. They get a Manifold Key. They put a Time Vault on the stack, and we have the Force of Will by this point. So just sneaking in time to bink the Time Vault, and playing around Time Vault was not on my radar, I don't think. Just looking at the way the game's coming out, but just, yeah, I'm not sure about that trap discard versus the second Bazaar. But so it goes, that's what we did. And that wins the match, so we're 2-0. Okay, so round 3, and we're up against Justin, who has recently done well with a Tinker deck, where he's actually cut the Tellurian Academy, I think to make space for Wastelands. All pretty innovative stuff, not something I particularly understand, but yeah, Academy gone, get them in the bin, use it as a coaster, Wasteland in. So, however, this week he has revealed a Lurus, so things are going to be a little bit different, I guess, but we can assume Wasteland, no Academy, based on recent play. So we start off with this 6-card hand. We've just bottomed a Fury, which I think makes sense. We're on the draw, and he starts off with like a multi-power hand, or Ruby into Lotus with some decent lag, and then cycles a Lorien. So cycles a Lorien, gets himself an Underground Sea, pops it into play. He's even got a miscut Ruby and a miscut Lotus, so it's probably worth something. And then across we go, pass of the turn, and we don't know what he's doing. So this does kind of reek of Bowmasters at the moment. Maybe a Vamp, I guess, is an option. So yeah, our hand's great. So we start off with Bazaar. We fortunately draw something that's easy to discard, because one of the downsides of this hand at the moment is that there's no easy discards. Like if we draw another Force of Will, we're going to activate, and we're probably going to activate anyway, just get the hollow one. But if you draw Force of Will or Force of Vigor there, you're really going to struggle with your decisions, right? Fortunately, because we're us, we keep a high quantity of cards in our opener, and as is going to be a theme of this video, we just draw perfect, right? So just activate Bazaar, 1, 2, 3, like an absolute god. So, which has been a theme so far, and we discard the 2 lizards in the Squee and pass back. Now, I remember this game being very interesting, and I think it starts roughly around our end step, where things get a bit more interesting. But we're going to develop some cards, see what comes out. We've got some threats, we've got some protection against Wasteland, we've got some protection against Justin's proactive plays as well. It's our end step. Justin goes for a Vampiric Tutor, and we misstep it, as you would kind of expect us to. And then we pass the turn to Justin. So Justin's turn 2 is to play a Tundra, and then buy Lurus from exile, cast Lurus. We kind of have to force it, because Lurus Lotus is going to be a bit too good against us here. And the force resolves. That's all nice and good. And then we get into a Squee. A Squee is going to help us stay in this game. And we top deck Force of Vigor for the turn, which is really good against these Saga decks, right? Because they're going to play a Saga. We're going to get their 3 Mox, and we're going to get their Saga as well. But one thing I don't understand here is why I don't activate Bazaar of Baghdad, right? They can't have a Bowmaster open. I've got a Squee, I've got some interaction, so I can just activate Bazaar completely freely here on the assumption that I just discard what I draw and discard the Squee as well. So we just attack for 6. And this bit I'm really not sure about my play, but I pass the turn, which means it's now Justin's turn. He just goes Tundra Go, which means I get to my end step, and all of a sudden I can't activate because I don't have anything, right? He's not played a Saga. I can't activate into a Bowmaster that aggressively, I don't think. So I just kind of lose a bunch of card equity there. Like if it's a free Lizard, if it's a Poxwalker, if it's a Vengevine that we get to pitch, it's all great. If we draw a Force Blue card, then we have a massive headache. But it's not. We can't play we can't activate based on we can't not activate based on the fact that we could draw force blue card, right, and have a headache. Decisions are good. So I don't really understand that whole turn. I feel like I've lost an activation from trying to be smart of I'm just going to pink your Saga, but he doesn't have a Saga. He would have played Saga on 2. Never mind. So in our upkeep, we get hit by a dig through time, which we've got to let go. So that's concerning for us. Dig through time's a big look, and I think it's the dig through time makes me think or begin to think about the presence of Vault Key in Justin's deck. We draw Squee for the turn, we activate, we discard 2 Squees and a Vengevine, and we hold a second Bazaar. Straight to combat land, and in for another 6, Justin falls to 8 life. And I presume we just play Bazaar and pass at this point. Yeah, play Bazaar, pass the turn. So Justin's just cast Dig Through Time. So he's seen a lot of powerful cards, you assume. And then he plays a Saga for the turn and casts Demonic Tutor. So there's a moment there where we can activate, we can Vigor if we want to in response to the trigger, but that's only really good when it's like their only land. You know, when he's got 4 other mana sat there, it doesn't really make any sense. So he casts DT, which I'm not on board with, and then casts a new spell, which is Time Walk. So at this point, I'm thinking he's really trying to ramp into Time Vault, right? I think DT's gone and got a Time Vault, and now he's walking to push his Saga up, and he's got to fade 1 turn with Saga. Okay, so that's roughly what I think is going on. And he's got 3 cards in hand, which are quite important for this down the stretch. So Justin takes an extra turn. His Saga's going to tick up to 2, which is all bad news for us. Because now our clock's a lot weaker against him. And he goes Petal and passes. And I'm like all over the idea that he has... Right, I'm all over the idea that he has Time Vault in hand. Okay, so next turn he's getting the key, he's getting Time Vault. So he plays Petal, passes through main phase, and then plays Mana Crypt. So that means he's then got Mana Crypt and Saga, which is a token, plus 5 mana for a hardcast Force of Will. So with just 2 cards in hand, I pretty much cement him on Time Vault, Force of Will, as he's passing to us. Which means for this Vigor to be good, and for this Vigor needs to resolve, and for us not to lose the game, I believe it has to be Time Vault and Force. So we need to find blue card, Force of Will, or we need to find Vigor green card this turn. Another Vigor and another green card. We get our Squeeze back, and we get another Squee. So it's going to be an easy activation here, because we've got such easy discards. So Bazaar goes on the stack, and we find ourselves a Force, which is really, really big game. Because now we can beat the Force of Will we think he's holding, and the Time Vault as well. So it would be a case of let Saga happen. Yeah, I think we would be letting Saga happen, and then we'd be vigoring the Time Vault and the key, or one of those two. Or maybe we could just go for upkeep Saga, upkeeping the Saga, something like that. So we get in, and our token's going to trade off with the hollow one, or their token's going to trade off with the hollow one. Opponent falls to 6, and then it goes on to their turn. Well, in our end step even, sorry. In our end step, they repeal the Mana Crypt, which confuses me and means they're not on Time Vault, right? In retrospect, it means they're not on Time Vault, but we know they've got Force of Will. So we still let this go through, though, this Saga. So Saga trigger happens, a token joins the fray, and at the moment I just let it all go through because he's drawn some more cards and there's no point in losing to a top deck Time Vault or just Time Vault that he had before. So I just let him carry on with his day, but he actually gets a Needle in the end, which is the moment where I realise we're not on a Time Vault plan, basically. Sapphire comes down, leaving him with 5 mana open again. So I missed a window there, but I was expecting yeah, I was expecting to die rather than expecting to be disrupted. So when we get to our end step, or Justin's end step, we're going to Vigor Token and Needle. The hardcast force read was right, and we have to negate back. We flip some cards over, and then we pick up our 3 squeeze. Having navigated that mid game reasonably well, I think. Really keyed on the way we can lose the game and minimize that, but he just didn't have any of that. It turns out he did have the force of will, the mana crypt, put the force of will face up though, so that was easy. And at this point we know that his hand is mana crypt, so we're just all gravy and we're just cruising along, right? So we activate, we discard 3 squeeze, we play a wasteland. We've got force and negation, there's no point in us messing around. We've got your saga covered. He's so far behind, right? Plays a top, we force it. There's no point in allowing him the strength and ability to get back into the game. Flip a Bazaar on end step, pick up 3 squeeze, and then pick up a lizard, activate, discard some cards, activate, discard triple lizard, which triggers a Poxwalkers, and then I think that's where he concedes, but the Vengevine is here chilling out, so we win the game with him having a mana crypt in hand. I thought it was a pretty good one. Okay, so next round, and we draw up against Unlucky Monkey, who is a master of their own brew. They play a 4-color mana problems control deck with Luris as a companion. And we open up on the Nut High again. I think that's a bit of a theme of this, to be honest with you. But with the Monkey matchup, I don't like it usually, as Squee is a tough one. But this is exactly what we want to be doing. We want a quick aggressive clock, and then after that we want to be fighting on their mana, on the front of their mana. So we've got to assume that we keep this hand because it's just cracked, and then we've got to work out how to use the software, and then after that we'll have something to do. Yeah, so Monkey's on the play. This is game 1 of round 4. They probe us and I bink it back, and then they thought seize us and take the lizard, which is quite a cute play really. There's only really 2 options, right? Lizard or negation, but taking the lizard makes these Vengevines further away from playable. So we get a free lizard, which is always tasty. They bauble us. Magic Online's having some artwork issues this week, so and I've recorded this recap over a number of days because life's been just off the charts this week and last month. So yeah, the bauble triggers and it's over to us, and we draw another squee. So nice Bazaar activation here because we're going to get to discard 2 squeeze at the very least. We hit a hollow one. So I think here, so like I can't remember the games, and a lot of this is the first time I've rewatched it. I think here I like discarding just a 2 squeeze, right? We have Vigor in our deck, we have Fury in our deck, and we can get back the squeeze. So yeah, this looks good. Roll out the hollow one because 4 power is 4 power, and we're not particularly hopeful of bringing back these Vengevines soon. So don't want to mess around with that. Opponent's main phase, and they're going to ponder. Can't imagine we're fighting a ponder. No. Volk, Bauble, and then we got our 2 squeeze back. So we're like just cruising through here. This is great. I'd love to hit a wasteland or 2. Grab a powder. Cool. Powder's good. 2 squeeze and a Vengevine. Could have discarded a powder there, to be honest with you. Rather than the Vengevine, and kept 2 green cards in hand. So it gives you a few more options later to discard with. If it's Unlucky Monkey's 3rd turn, they're going to wasteland us, which is not ideal. They are a 5 wasteland deck, so that's putting us in a bit of a spot, but the good thing is we've got 5 power and they've got 2 turns. So 2 squeeze go onto the stack. I'm waiting for Unlucky Monkey to pay costs on their dig through time, or waiting for me to get the right number of clicks. Dig through time comes onto the stack, and we've got to fight back here. There's no chance we can't let that. We can let that through. They've got 1 card in hand at the moment, so our force just resolves. And we're going to get him for 5, and we top deck a Vigor. Vigor's a really nice draw here, because, as I said earlier, they're on 4-color mana waves, so being able to get this this Lotus in their upkeep with one card in hand. That turns off all of their Lurus lines this turn. If they draw a land, they can go Lurus, Lotus, or however that works. And then possibly even cast a spell from hand, right? So Vigor the Lotus on upkeep, and that prompts the concession after they take a draw and see that they've got nothing left. So that was game one, and this has been the recipe for minimal success against Unlucky Monkey for me, is in the games where you're able to attack their mana, are the games where you do well. Because they are a master at their craft. It is a check pile style thing, and the deck's cool, but like for this tournament, or the tournament before this, when I was looking at deck lists throughout the challenge, they were on like 5 mana producing lands plus their Moxen. So obviously lots of fetch lands, but it's still a tough sell, right? When you've come up against me. I know I didn't draw any wastelands this game, but you come up against me and I've got my wastelands 1 for 1 for your mana producing lands. Is a tough place to be. Okay, so game 2, and we keep another 7, and we get Delta Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize takes our Fury, which makes sense. Yeah, everything else wants to be discarded, right? So that is giving me a turn 1 Vengevine confirmed. So there's that. We play Bazaar. We draw some cards. We draw another Fury, which is cute. We don't have the bonus red card, but we can get our Vengevine in. 2 powders, a Force of Will online, and yeah, an opponent who's dying quite quickly now, right? 13, so we've just got to hit them 2 to 3 more times. They can fetch out and then walk. I don't fight the walk, I just let the walk go. They're a deck of few payoffs and decent amount of interaction, and then more cantrips than seems healthy at times. So here's a Ponder. And another Delta gets a Trop, gets another Ponder, and then they Flame Slash our Vengevine. So, yeah, fine. They've got 3 cards. We draw some more cards. If we'd hit a red card here, I think I'd be interested in pitching the Fury, but I did draw a Wasteland, which is everything I've ever wanted. Holding the Lizard, rather than putting it into play, because we've got this Vengevine. They can come back. We can also draw into future Poxwalkers. And then here we hit the Volcanic. We hit the Volcanic because they've shown us red removal, and also Volk cast the Wrenn and 6 that they play. So I think I'm always hitting Trop or Volk there, but because they've shown me red interaction, I hit that one. That also turns off their questing druid thing, so that's cool. And now our opponent has a dig through time again. So main phase dig from Unlucky Monkey. We force it, and they force back. So they're at 8, and they wasteland our Bazaar of Baghdad, which is a tough place to be. Upkeep, we draw a Master of Death, and then we draw Force of Will off our draw step. So it's just going to be a dink for 2 here. Opponent's only got 2 cards in hand, but they fall to 6. So Bauble comes in, Bauble's me. DT, I have to force because we're in a post-board game, so I can just get a Tabernacle and end the game. So our Force of Will gets through. Opponent's on 1 card. I can't remember how this goes so wrong. We top deck Bazaar, and now we activate the Bazaar of Baghdad. So nice top deck to really drag us back into this game. Now the question is, what do you keep? I'm not sure I've got a 3rd Fury in my deck at this point. The Root Waller doesn't really increase the clock in any way. Misstep fights Needles, Misstep fights Ponders, Misstep fights their way back into the game. Really. Fury clears up any creatures that they manage to develop in the next turn cycle. Or Bazaar just churns us through our deck, but we've not actually got any squeeze on the go at the moment. So I think there's arguments between keeping Bazaar and keeping Fury. I think I land on the Bazaar just because of the presence of Wasteland in their deck and how easy it is for them to find it. Yeah, so a Lizard comes in. It's not really changing the clock at all, I don't think, unless they fetch or force at some point. And then okay, so it all starts to go wrong with this Sapphire, right? So opponent plays a Sapphire, and then Buys Lurus, plays a Lotus, plays a Lurus, plays a Lotus again, and we are suddenly very far behind. And I think in this spot, is there an argument for keeping Noxious? Because I keep the Bazaar. No, there's not really, because if I hit, yeah, so I'm just looking at the Noxious, because the Noxiouses can always buy back, like, a Fury or something. If I keep the Noxious here, then I'm discarding the Bazaar and I'm not looking for another Lizard. Another Lizard's hard to hit here. So I discard the Noxious in the end. And then I just flip in an attempt to find a 5th Lizard. If I find a 5th Lizard, then we kind of win. And then we can't attack profitably. Opponent, on their turn, gets to do a lot of nonsense. So Questing Druid, cast Questing Druid, cast Expressive Iteration. And this really starts to bring the game under control for them. They get Scalding Tarn, they play a Bauble, they Bauble us. We're falling behind, but I think in a moment there is an opportunity for me to do something good. I'm not sure though. So all of our attacks have dried up due to lifelink. We draw a Vigor, so we've got to flip again. We missed a bunch of Wasteland. Probably just keep a Negation or Vigor here. Yeah, keep a Negation. And then really it's just trying to see how many Vengevines we can put into play later. We've got 1 Squee on the go, which is decent. Opponent fetches down to 3. Plays a Probe on me, sees nothing. Emerald and passes. They draw off Bauble. Squee comes back. Draw a Squee for the turn. First Bazaar activation, then let's see what we've got. Yeah, here. So we hit a Noxious Revival. So can we Noxious anything? We don't have any hollow ones. So we'd be discarding 3 Squees. Noxiousing ourselves on a Fury, I presume. And then that makes it really difficult to do anything. So it would be a pass the turn if we keep the Noxious. Interesting. I think I discard the Noxious actually. No, I surely discard the 3 Squeeze. But here, let's say we target Fury, activate. No, I'd just be milling Fury, wouldn't I? So we flip again. We find a hollow one, which I presume we put into play. And we hold the hollow one to try and get through next turn. Okay, that makes sense. And then the opponent Ancestrals himself. Cast a Lotus from the graveyard. And more spells. And then they play a Tormod's Crypt and I pick them up there. So I don't think there was anything to do with that Noxious there. That first Noxious up here, maybe there was something, but I don't think so. And yeah, once they've resolved Lurus, that completely stabilizes the board. And they're able to cantrip their way through, whilst we didn't really get anything going for a bit too long. And then the Crypt's just going to kill us. So game 3 is another Bazaar on 7. I don't know how many of those that's been, but it's been a lot. It's been kind of unfair, to be honest with you. And Chalice is an absolute cracker in this matchup on the play. They have very difficult mana, very reliant on their Moxen. I like the look of discarding the 1 negation and then 2 vigors, I think. Oh no, 1 negation, 1 vigor, 1 lizard. That's what I like the look of. Yeah, cool. The vigors, if the Chalice get through, are kind of dead at that point, other than Needle. So, if they've got a Needle. They usually do, I think, but once the Chalice is here, it's kind of over. So, not over in terms of the game, but just like it's over for the vigors, they're not very good. So, opponent plays a Delta, and I imagine we just get Thoughtseize or something. Oh, Nature's Claim on my hollow one. So, not a Chalice heavy, not a Moxen heavy hand, which is uncommon for them. And here, I really dislike this activation. Really dislike it. I know I'm thinking, I can ditch these vigors, I've got a Chalice. But if they play a Needle, it's very difficult. Well, I've got a misstep now, but the activation beforehand, right? My hand is Wasteland, Wasteland, 2 Vigors. And as I said a moment ago, or when I was discussing their deck at the beginning of the match, is their deck doesn't operate without mana. And their mana it works, but it's tough. It's a tough thing for them to overcome in each game. So I don't like the activation because I've got an answer to a Needle, I've got an answer to Moxen if they destroy my Chalice, and I can just Wasteland them twice. So I don't know what I discard here. I imagine just Vengevine and 2 Vigors is what I'd like to see here. Yeah, but now we're just heavily exposed to Needle other than the misstep. But that activation I think is horrific. So we waste them, obviously. Like, the activation's awful, and we're lucky to draw the misstep, is I think how we put that forward. So they Wasteland us, and we top deck a Bazaar, and we slow roll the Bazaar. We've got no squeeze going. My hand's cracked with Needle and Wasteland, or Misstep and Wasteland. So there's no point in us exposing the Bazaar. We can just play a Wasteland. That's going to incite us against a Tabernacle or a random Saga or something. We'll misstep their Ponder to really slow them down. And I wonder when I Wasteland them. Wasteland's just going to go straight into their face. Yeah. So no spells for you, but we top deck a Hollow One, and we can't go exposing Bazaar of Baghdad at the moment. But we have been doing a nice mana denial plan. Opponent misses a land drop. We hit Master, Powder, Lizard off of our draws this turn, which means we're going to get to reanimate a Vengevine. And this is one of those spots where maybe my aggressive Wastelanding can come back to bite if they've got a tab. But, in the meantime, take 5. So 0 cards in hand, but the Chalice doing a lot of heavy lifting. Opponent probes us and concedes the game. So there was 2 games there where we were on we used some really nice mana denial pieces, and we beat Unlucky Monkey. There was 1 game there where we didn't do much mana denial and we lost. So their deck's good. They've got some very difficult to answer hate pieces like Tormod's Crypt's a pain in the ass. And then the Wastelands, Infinite Wastelands, is very difficult as well. So it's definitely a losable matchup. But I think this is very much just like who draws the Wastelands and when. Like, I got ahead and I was able to use my Wastelands proactively. And this Chalice probably did a lot more heavy lifting than we can imagine, because they are on 7 cards at the moment. Although Nature Claim's a hollow one, so maybe they were fine without it. Anyway, so 2-1 win, and we're off to round 5. Okay, round 5, and this is where I remember my tournament turning to shit, despite keeping 7 and having a Chalice, 2 hollow ones, and a Force. Looks like I fight the walk here, that's weird. Okay. Never mind, that's what we do. We activate, we discard Squee, Powder, Master. And then I think it's like hollow 1 Chalice, hollow 1. Yeah, I like that. So this plays around just like a random trap. This baits with Force of Will. They're a Time Walk, Moxpel, no Lurus deck, so we can assume some sort of Tinker nonsense. And then we'll play the 3rd hollow one into a Mindbreak trap. Mindbreak trap's not often, but it's just good to sequence better, right? Like, say DT, and they probably Ancestral, and they Needle, sure. I like the idea of Wastelanding here. Yeah, look at that. So you can hold the Wasteland for a Saga, right? But, I mean, we've just drawn Noxious, but then they twist. Cool. And we twist into absolutely nothing and hit even less. So we're going to get in for 8, put them down to 3, and then their Saga's online, and they've got 7 cards in hand. Just discard a random Lizard, apparently. So Mystical Tutor. So upkeep their Mystical Tutor. They tank on the Mystical Tutor for a good minute or so, and then concede the game, which is funny. So let's go to the post-board games. So game 2 I mulliganed to 5, which really seems quite unfair. My opponent kept 7. Yeah, so I might submit a bug report for that, and maybe on Spellbomb. I remember being displeased about how I played this whole match. So I discard Fury, Lizard, Vengevine, just feed them everything. I guess I just keep all the interaction, right? And then we can Chalice on 0. Cool. Life is sweet. They've got 5 cards. Cyclorian, get an underground sea. Wasteland, any aggressive wastelands going here? They vamp. We misstep, cool. Oh yeah, no, so, and then they play Tabernacle at Pendule Vale. And this is a game I do not like. So I pay, which I think is fine. So we need to be able to beat, so the reason I'm paying here, okay, is I need to be able to beat a Saga. And the lizard just doesn't matter, right? The lizard doesn't matter enough to wasteland the Tabernacle at Pendule Vale. If we ever reanimate this Vengevine, or look like we're going to reanimate that Vengevine, maybe we can come off the lizard for a turn or something like that. But I think paying's fine for now, because it means that we can keep pinging them and just generally progressing the game a little bit whilst not dying to a Saga. Opponent plays a cage, so the Vengevine's dead. Not really too much of an issue, I don't think, but we've got a Vigor now, something to work towards. I think this is where I start to screw up the game. So we find a second Wasteland, and opponent just passes straight back. No plays, no nothing. We've got negation, we're drawing towards a Vigor. So I untap, and regretfully, I think I pay. Yeah, no, and I hate that. I really hate that. Our opponents just missed a land drop, and we can just take them off 2 mana producing lands and leave them with Cage Spellbond tab. Like, let the lizard die, it doesn't matter, right? The lizard's not doing anything. We're not winning with this lizard ever. So here I activate. Don't really find much. Oh, am I coming off the Vigor? That can't be right. That's horrific. Okay, well, that's what we've done. I think we're supposed to keep Vigor there. So we can fight these artifacts. We can fight future artifacts. But I know how this is going to go. I'm going to cast the Hollow One. Yeah, I feel like we should have no Wastelands and they should have a Tabernacle. I should have a Vigor in hand. They Mystical Tutor. Revealing Ancestral. And yeah, no, I'm really quite displeased about all of this. We Ancestral, they Ancestral, we Force, they fluster back. No point in paying. And then we're going to strip the Tabernacle on end step. And then we're going to untap. We're going to strip that Saga, I imagine. So draw some cards first, yeah, nice. We discard Lizard and we hold a Fury. The fuck are we scared about? There's a perfectly good force of will there, if you ask me. Yeah, I just think there's so many things I do wrong in this game. So they play an Academy. Oh, I'm a genius. They play an Academy, they play a Dack Fade, and they take our Hollow One. Which I can Fury, and then split the damage on the 2 nerds on Dack and Lizard. So, okay, apparently we get away with that one. No activation at sorcery speed, which is wild against like a potential Hull Breacher Bowmaster deck. Draw a Noxious. Wild that we've not been activating Bazaar here, and they've got a Bowmaster. We don't activate in response because we continue to smoke. Oh no, not activating response is actually fine because I'm just going to Noxious a Fury, right? That's the game plan there. They take their 1. Oh yeah, they did that just at the wrong time, and then they twist us and we die. So that not activating response makes a lot of sense there actually. But just throughout that whole game, I should have used my Wastelands a lot better. I could have taken off all their mana producers. I think yes, that does mean that the Tabernacle into Saga into Academy is going to beat us in the long run. But they just lose so much power out of their deck, right? And they'd also still have that Vigor in hand because I wouldn't play the Hollow One. So I would have drawn into a green card 87 turns later. Maybe that's enough. I don't know. I think there was yeah, I don't have any power, so why am I doing so much work to protect it when I can just take you off mana, and that's going to give me all the time in the world to build up and get into it, sort of thing. They've still got the Spellbomb in hand, in play, so I don't know. Weird one. So game 3 against Motsu, and yeah, we've got another good hand. 5 cards, bunch of power, force for their turn, and now a trap as well. So Oh, well, I'll get Force of Will online next turn. Yeah, okay, sure. Card quantity. I've played this deck before, don't worry. So yeah, 5 power on turn 1. Force of Will and Mind Break Trap behind. They've got nothing. This looks like a Bowmaster to me, so I can't imagine I'm activating this Bazaar of Baghdad. Yep. We draw a Wasteland and just deploy it and attack. We might activate Place Combat once we got our damage in, but no, they've got nothing. And then they play an island. Looks like a Hull Breacher. Looks like a Bowmaster. We draw a Force of Will, which is great because now we've actually got an answer to those two things. Although they do have Flash, so it's hard for us to cope. They Bowman. I guess I force. Oh, I activate first. Holy hell. Okay, cool. Another Bazaar. Discard some cards. Discarding the Bazaar of Baghdad. That's certainly a statement. They've got Flusterstorm. Spell Pierce. Gross. Cool. So they kill the lizard. They chomp the hollow one. Do we Wasteland their Underground Sea? No, because we're trying to think about Tabernacle and Saga. I feel like I could have been more aggressive with a lot of these Wastelands in this match, and I think that's the main issue. So obviously we've got to counter the deck, otherwise they just take our hollow one. They get him for 1. We can probably... No, we can't really activate here, can we? They draw a Mind Break Trap. Can we Wasteland something? Actually, now there's no point in Wastelanding, right? Because... Yeah, there's no point in Wastelanding here because they've already got 4 mana. So they can still cast Time Twister afterwards. They play a Jailer. Attack for 1. We draw a Vengevine. Oh, no attacks. Or no activations. They drop to 5. They Hercules me. And then they untap and they cast a Twist. We activate Bazaar. We find nothing good. Most inexplicable Wasteland activation ever seen. Bang on time, really. We draw into not really anything. And let's just skip the turn because I think we just kind of die here. So the one critical thing is that this army token is summoning sick. But then they just play a bunch of cards. We negate a Tinker. They force back and they put Sphinx into play. And we die. So where in the Unlucky Monkey match we made pretty good use of the Wastelands, in this match I think we played fairly horribly in games 2 and 3. The hands we kept were definitely winning hands. The way we played was quite horrific. So that puts us to X and 1, and we have a clean win in for the next round. So round 6 we're up against a 2-star who plays a bunch of Oath. The Oath matchup is one I do not hate. I think game 1's tough. I think post board we're pretty good against Oath. So I do dump Lizards here because I've got a Chalice, so I'm not getting Oathed on 1. And I've got a Vigor, so I'm not getting Oathed on 2. They've got an Ancestral after mulliganing to 5, which is good for them. We get our Master back. We draw a Force of Will, so that's quite nice. So we can just do no activation here, right? Maybe just deploy a library, yeah. Cool. Good stuff. And then Oath of Druids, right. So here we can just Vigor Oath, right? And I think this is just one of those games where I play it poorly. My sequencing's off. So one thing with a spot like this, if they've got another blue open, you want to Force of Will the Oath of Druids. But where they don't have another blue open, we should just be able to Vigor it and chill. Naturally, I'd make the wrong decision. So if they have another blue open, we have to Force of Will, because then they have to Fluster, and then our Vigor beats the Fluster. Where they don't have another blue open, we can let that happen. We can pitch a Lizard or a Noxious to our Vigor, and we can kill the Oath of Druids with Force of Will behind. And if the Force of Vigor just gets through, we're then able to Force of Will the show and tell next turn. So yeah, I think it's all kind of awful the way we played this. We used our show and tell answer to kill the Oath of Druids when we had a clean disenchant for the Oath of Druids. So not great. Not great. And it's just that sort of thing. It is going to come back and bite you. So we'll discard some cards here. I guess Misstep and Vigor will go in the end. Yeah. We've got 4 creatures. They're on 18. Draw another Vigor. Okay. Stuff and things. Wasteland you. And wastelanding the Underground Sea there is interesting, but I'm just playing it so they've got to give me more power. And hoping that they don't have too much of a payoff here. But naturally they just have another Oath, and I just came off all my cards. So we're going to die. Nothing's going to help us here. Let's just skip through their turn. So they Atraxa. We can't be an Atraxa pre-board. And that comes down to that poor use of Force of Will originally. And then there was one of those activations which is probably a bit excessive, especially the one where I come off of Vigor. But the reason I came off of Vigor there is that I need to wasteland them, because that is now my only way of stopping a show and tell from happening. So just a litany of errors, or just compounding errors, right? Use the wrong answer first of all, and then force me off of another answer because I need to play around the show and tell, which is hard to beat. Sometimes, yes, you do want to force of will the Oath, but that's only when they've got 1 blue open, they're able to represent Flusterstorm. So we just misplayed. Let's get to game 2 then, and we get to do the thing where we keep 7 cards. So we've got Bazaar, Caracas, 2 Vengevines, and we draw into what? We draw into, so 2 Vengevines will go to the bin, plus a Squee. So we've got decent permission now. Opponent flicks through, and just Underground Sea go. That's interesting. I guess just Vamp or Mystical or something then. Our turn, we draw a second Bazaar. We activate triple Squee, can go to the yard. That's nice. I guess we... Ooh, fuck me, I don't like that activation. What are you discarding here? Right? We've just drawn these 2 cards. Yeah, no, I like playing the Bazaar. Playing the Bazaar's fine. But... because you don't want to expose to Caracas, because then they know to play around Caracas and they know what to do with their Strip Mines and Presages. So playing the Bazaar is fine, and going for some sort of end-step flip is fine. But this one's just horrific. I don't want playing around by doing it at sorcery speed. But Lizard just goes straight to the bin. Right? We don't have the sort of hand that can beat them going land Oath. So why make it that they could go Tropical Island Oath and it's good, sort of thing. So we just let the Lizard go. They play a Vamp, we can't fight it because our spells are wrong. And then they play a Forbidden Orchard. And then they play an Oath, which we force. And they force back. So that's not cool. It's pretty bad for us, really. They've got an Oath. We've got 4 Squeeze. Who would win? Echoing Deeps doesn't do anything. So we activate, we find another Caracas. Squee. Okay. So we're getting somewhere now. Discard a 3rd Vengevine. Discard an Echoing Deeps. Play a Caracas. Attack for 1. And then they've got 3 cards in hand. I wonder how we play this. They Brainstorm, which scares me because I think they're putting a card back. But it's fortunate that they're only putting back an Atraxa, not Sarah's Emissary. I bounce the Atraxa with the Atraxa trigger on the stack, and our opponent reveals really one of the nut-low sort of... a nut-low Atraxa trigger, right? Where it's something like Orchard, Orchard Vale, Atraxa C, Tab, Misstep, Atraxa Vigor Oath. So it looks really tough. Like, their cards aren't effective. They play a Bayou. and they roll out another Oath of Druids. Because they brainstormed, we can now Vigor. But they didn't draw anything good there. So we Vigor, they force back, and we Mind Break Trap. They pitch their Atraxa. So 2 Oaths down, we've got Caracas, we've got a billion Squeeze somewhere, there we go. Here they are, and we've got triple Vengevine. So we should be good here to reanimate some Vengevines, but we miss. So we'll just keep Force of Will, Powder. Well, so we keep Force of Will in Library and a Lizard. Get in for our 2 points of damage. And what happens here? Opponent plays Ancestral, which we let go. Holy fuck. Okay, cool. Ancestral into yet another Oath. We force the Oath. That gets through, and they play a Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. Opponent's on 13, and we've got 3 Vengevines and 1 Lizard. So we keep our Caracas open. There's some triggers here. But we get back our Squeeze. We keep our Caracas open, let 2 guys die, pay for 1. And then we immediately draw it with 2 Bizarre activations. We were probably going to be fine anyway. There's a 4th Vengevine, so it didn't matter that we paid for 1 guy, because 3 Vengevines plus a Spirit would be lethal this turn. And yeah, we reanimate some creatures, and our opponent dies. So we beat an Atraxa trigger. It was a pretty weak Atraxa trigger, but it all looks good. So one thing I do like about this game is that initial play with this Basking Root Waller. We didn't put it into play, maybe even forcing them to vamp for Forbidden Orchard, you know. And this is typically how we beat Oath, is some amount of playing with Squeeze rather than with Lizards. The little shitters don't matter. You need to be putting in 4-power creatures. So I am happy to put a Hollow One into play in that sort of spot, but I'm not happy to put a Lizard into play randomly. Okay, well, what we want, triggering Vengevines, we want big creatures. And when I say I'm happy to put a Lizard in a Hollow One in that spot, that depends on my hand as well. Like, I'm not above discarding a Hollow One, I don't think. In general, obviously, we've seen some questionable plays from me today, and that happens. That happens in games. You focus on the wrong thing. Yeah. So game 3, round 6. Let's go find our hand. Oh, so some sort of mulligan there, but we do. Okay, so we powder away a bunch of nonsense. Oh, 1 Caracas goes. Okay, that's probably useful information. We get an Echoing Deep, Squee, 2 pieces of mission. Lotus, no fight. Whew, that's aggressive. That's aggressive. Like, I know I've not got all the tools to fight here, but if they just go Crack Lotus, Show and Tell, Force get flustered. Well, I guess they played Misty first, so that's always fucking happening if they need it. Yeah, okay. Maybe we can let the Lotus go. I don't know though. I feel like I get rewarded there, don't I? Oh, and we're going for some instant speed activations. Yeah, pay me. Nice. Look at this. We're going to play with some Squeeze. We're going to play with some permission. The idea here is that we're holding the blue Master of Death, the blue Squee, to keep up double force. But if we don't use this blue Squee, we get to just flip it and get it back next turn. So Vamp probably just gets through in this spot. Yeah. Vamp makes it. I wonder what that means for us. Vamp, no land drop. Vamp, no land drop, go. So it's no land drop. Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Vamp, no land drop. What does that mean? Let's try and think about it. So it could just mean that they've gone and got a Boseiju. They've gone and got a Tabernacle. No, just planning ahead. They've gone and got an Oath. Nah, it's just got to be Upkeep Ancestral, right? Upkeep Ancestral, no other doubt. So the Squeeze and the Echoing Deeps go, surely, yeah. I wonder if we Vigor a Lotus here. We've got to fight this Ancestral first. Yeah. Oh, if we don't, no. My hand's too good. I don't want anything to do with it. So let's activate. And then, what's the third discard? Probably just a Noxious? No, I can't discard Noxious. That's our green card. We could discard Hollow One, but Hollow One's probably a really good win condition in this spot. It's just a trap then. Trap or negation. Holy fuck, what just happened? So we discard Squee, Vigor, Noxious. Okay, fine. And then my hand is just blue. It's exceptionally blue. Pretty punty here to lead on Hollow One, where we could have played Library and drawn a card. So that's nice. Nice to see that. Now I play Library and go, oh, I've only got 6 cards in hand. Good play, good play. Right, so this is... You've got 7 cards, I've got 3 permission spells. I'm going to counter everything you do for the rest of the day. Okay. So Emerald's got to get through, yeah. Jet, oh, here comes the power. And Oko, I'm probably fighting Oko, right? Yeah, I'm so all in. Okay. So the library turns into something that pays for church. And cool. Opponent's on 17, there's 4 cards in hand. I've got a bunch of squeeze. We draw it into a vigor. I've got 2 squeeze, so probably just more instant speed activations here. Yeah. Back to the opponent, they play Petal. And they're getting close to hardcast, emissary, hardcast. The tracks are here, right? So end step will activate. We'll go and take a look. And that's probably why I discarded the vigor beforehand, is because I'm just going to draw back into one within a turn cycle. Discarding strip, yeah, discarding strip. You love to see it. So now we can kill all their permanents, which will get them away from hardcasting attractors and making our life difficult like that. Activate. Can't develop another hollow one because I've already discarded my strip mine, so I might just discard the hollow one. Oh no, I discarded Master of Death. Interesting. That was another piece of interaction that we've just discarded over keeping this hollow one. So that's interesting. I guess I'm just going for a Vengevine kill at some point then. Upkeep, Vigor, Emerald and Lotus. Okay. They force. Emerald and Lotus is interesting choices. I like the play. Okay, so Emerald just means that they have to petal out a green source. I don't like this hollow one being in my hand. That could be a Master of Death. I appreciate its cards, but then I'd have Force Trap for a card that I can't play. What have we got going on here? There it is. Hardcast Atraxa. Wheel Force. They've got nothing back. We're going to attack them down to 4. Get back some squeeze. And activate. So now we can just discard hollow 1 and 2 squeeze, right? Right? Yeah, cool. We found the discard on hollow 1. We attack for 4. And I know what happens next, and this is one of the most distressing plays of my life. So opponent's on 4. They go Forbidden Orchard, tap 2, cast an Oath. Just counter the Oath, right? But clever old me. Okay, well, you're at 4, you're dead, right? Who cares? I'll just counter your Time Walk, it doesn't matter. So for some reason we let the Oath go, despite the fact that I can counter both the Oath and the Time Walk, right? And then they passed our end step, and I remember this bit because it was about here on my end step where I just start swearing a lot and just go, oh no, they've got Boseiju. So yeah, we don't hit Vengevine, they Boseiju my hollow one, and then we unnecessarily lose a game that we had no right in losing. We've played the game perfectly fine up until this point. We've navigated the game up until this point, to the point where we're attacking for lethal, and all I had to do was just spend 2 of the 5 permission spells I've got in my hand. It's not particularly difficult. So it goes. And then this game grinds on and we slowly die. There's a few turns here where we can draw into a Caracas and reanimate a Vengevine. But really, we just lost the game for no real reason. I just had to... Yeah, inexplicable. But sometimes you just make massively punty plays. And typically round 6 in a winning in is the time to make those super punty plays. Yeah, not really any defense for it. But then when it comes to sideboarding against the Oath of Druids deck, I'm typically trimming 2 of the red lizards, taking out all the Poxwalkers, because that means taking out the Poxwalkers means all the cards that all the creatures we can put into play are optional. So we can play a game like this, right, where we got to put in the Hollow One of our own accord, and then we got to keep it around with the library, and blah blah blah. But, I then died to this Atraxa with all this permission in a completely unnecessary spot. So it goes. So we do lose that despite having the win on board sort of thing. And all I had to do was just spend some cards and not click OK. And I've got no reason why I didn't. Sometimes you punt. So we do break her in though. So there's some good news. And then we keep a 6-carder, I think. No, 7-carder. Perfect. And we get some lizards and a squee into the bin. Nice. All very good. We're up against Arkan here, who their most recent league was with Dredge. So, all their most recent results were with Dredge, but then they play Island Mox Jet, which is... This doesn't look particularly dredgy at this point. And it's back to our second ancestral on our upkeep, which is going to get through, I imagine. Yeah. And the island kind of beats up on my wastelands. 2 Vengevines can get in the bin. In for 2, but we know we're up against some sort of Tinker strategy. I like the idea of just killing your 2 Moxen in your upkeep. Interesting. Do we let that go? And we don't kill the Moxen. Okay. Interesting. That was pretty ballsy. They tinker. Holy fuck. I feel like we could have avoided a lot of this. And there's no main deck Sphinx, so we're allowed to continue playing the game. Yeah, I feel like towards the end of this tournament, the fact that it's getting late, I spent the afternoon in the pub, I think that's starting to show. Because we could have just zone rained them twice in their upkeep. Come off of another wasteland here with that activation. Yeah, we would have delayed that whole Tinker line for another turn. They would have forced back. Yeah, we would have delayed the Tinker line for a whole turn. We would have then built up into another Force of Will. They've got 3 cards in hand. So what do you discard here? You can discard Squee, Fury, Force and Negation, play a Hollow One, attack for 2, and have Force Misstep up. We can discard 3 blue cards and put your opponent to 1. I don't think I'm going to enjoy this. Yeah, I put my opponent to 1. Oh, that does get the concession. Despite giving the, Vampiric Tutor deck, Vampiric Tutor combo deck a whole turn to do something. Hey ho. I don't think that's great. I think I'd much rather just have 6 power and play, a squee on the go, and a bit of permission. Hey ho. You never play perfectly, and I don't know, always watching games back is really funny because it's quite difficult when you're just like, what was the thought process there? I think the thought process here is I want to go to bed, I'm going to put you to 1. Cool, let's go and see what else happens in this top 8. So game 2 against Arkan. Fuck me, we keep another 7. We've been exceptionally lucky. Okay, so opponent probes us, then goes Lotus Sapphire Island, and we do absolutely nothing about it. Just have your jewelry, it means nothing to me. We get a Bizarre. Let's go shopping. Turn 1 Vengevines. We're going to have a Wasteland as long as you don't tab me next turn, so we've got to fight tutors as we approach their end step, our end step. So we're misstepping every vamp that we've got available to us, because that's going to get a Tabernacle. They Wasteland my Bazaar of Baghdad, but I don't know, it looks like they're already dead, right? Top deck, oh yeah. Top deck another piece of permission. Attack for 6. That should be good enough, I think. They've got 5 cards in hand. They've got a Wasteland. Couldn't care less. I can see Wastelanding here, though. Well, they've just got an upkeep Hull Breacher. I mean, that doesn't matter. I top deck a Bazaar. Get in the attack. Oh, just the Vengevine. Cute. And they trade. And then I Wasteland that Wasteland. And now I activate Bazaar. And life is gravy again. Discarding the Squeeze and the Powder. Holding up 2 permission spells. And a Vigor for later. They just cast a Lorien. That's not getting through. Play a Saga. Cool. Yeah, this all looks fine. I just misstepped a needle on the way through there. I pressed the button too many times. So what's the discards here? Library Chalice Squee? Yeah, nice. And then we just get him for 2. And then we Stone Rain them twice. And they've got 1 card in hand and they're exceptionally dead. Looks good. Squee comes back. And we're just going to hold open all the permission. Do we give them something to eat? No. No, don't like giving them any of their cards there. And looks like we need to keep a creature. So we just pick up Wasteland, actually. We pick up Wasteland. And the opponent concedes the game. It's a game 2 there I liked. Game 2 there I liked. That was fine. And then we go off to the semis. Semifinals, we repair into a 2-star on Oath. That's our opponent from round 6, where we punted away our winning in, but break it in anyway. And then we do some mulliganing. Oh, we do a lot of it. What's this? Mulligan to 3. I suppose we are due one of these. Haven't gone below 5 since game 1, round 1. So, opponent Ancestrals, we're pretty dead here. Holding up Vengevine Vigor. Putting Liz into the graveyard, I presume. Yeah. Holding up Vengevine Vigor for the turn 2 Oath of Druids, but they just stripped us instead. Let's, we haven't got decisions at the moment, so let's do some turn skipping. Oko, force the Oko. Back to us, Vengevine. And then, I don't remember this game, but I presume we lose. Show and tell, I've got a Vengevine, you got an Atraxa. Yeah, cool. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. We mulliganed low. They had a strip mine, they didn't have an Oath. That's what we were lined up to play against, an Oath there. We weren't lined up for much else. We die. Never mind. Alright, game 2 of the semi-finals. We've got 2 Bazaars, a Library, Squee, Wasteland, Strip. Yeah, so non-interactive hand against Oath, really. Discarding Library, Noxious, Squee. Oh, yeah, no, I remember this game. Okay, yeah, so this game's also full of fairly questionable material, I think. And then they walk. Nice. So we've got creature, daytime walk. Forbidden Orchard makes an Oko. We've got to come up with a way of beating an Oko, but we've got 3 tokens, so how can we not beat an Oko with 3 tokens? So draw some cards, pick up some permission, probably discarding one of the wastes here. So yeah. Wasteland Squee, Master. Strip an Orchard just to try and keep them off mana. And then in order to kill the Oko, I have to respond to the Oko food activation, killing food and pearl. And then they play a show and tell, which we force, and it gets through. So, looks like Oko is going to go down. Discard the Fury. And I could have just Furied Oko. Cool, cool, cool. But Oko goes to 1. Food token created. 3 Squeeze come back, and now we're just gaming, right? Now it's really hard for them to come up with something. Another Wasteland. I like the Wasteland. We've got Force of Will and a Wasteland, yeah. Yeah, and they just conceded the Wasteland. Their Oko's going to die. They've got no mana. So that was cool. Like, that was not the most decision-intensive game, right? We just win off the back of their 2 orchards and our wasteland-heavy hand. The Yoko was threatening, but by the time we get to... Yeah, but we just get to attack it down. We've got one proactive play, which is Vigor your food token to keep the board empty. Yeah, cool. Game 3 then. Game 3 against Etusar. And we mulligan. We would have powder into another double bazaar hand on 7. So how do I not make the finals if this is my opener? So Bayou, Thoughtseize, take Mindbreak Trap. Right, interesting. Can we just strip here? Is that allowed? No, okay. It's a shame. We do draw Caracas. We discard a Bazaar. Opponent plays an island. Can we strip here? What do you think here? Do you activate? I guess so. You've got a powder. Say float a blue. They cast Flash. Flash and we just don't even respond. None of that, thank you. And their Atraxa trigger, I think, is relevant. Yeah. So this is what they keep from their Atraxa trigger. And I don't activate, which I do like, actually. Well, I've just seen that they've got a Boseiju in hand, so that's questionable. 3 mana. Show and Tell. Activate Bazaar. Oh. This I remember and this I hate. So, Powder, Noxious, and the Bazaar go away. And the reason I hate this is I know they've got the Boseiju, and I know they've got the Misstep. So I need to keep this Bazaar and discard this Noxious. They're going to show in an Atraxa. I'm going to show in a Caracas. We're going to bounce the Atraxa in response to the trigger. They've got a Tabernacle, Thoughtseize, Lotus, Oath, and this all looks horrific. They Boseiju my Bazaar. And then I go to end step. Noxious, they misstep back because I failed to play around the revealed cards zone. Draw a Squee, attack for 1, and then the game just gets away from us. Just a simple and kind of poor decision. Oath, Oath. I've got 2 creatures. I kill your 2 Oaths for no reason, and they get Serra's Emissary. And then this will get an Atraxa. And we lose the semifinals. I'm not saying we were winning if we'd not played headfirst into their misstep. But when your opponent reveals a misstep, you should probably not put your whole game plan into a 1 mana spell. That's going to be my takeaway. It was a cool tournament. I think there was circumstances outside of Magic that made me to kind of drop off towards the end of the evening. But I did like how I played a few of the rounds, specifically with game 1 against Justin. The other 2 games weren't competitive. I liked how I played against Unlucky Monkey. And I actually really enjoyed how I played against Etustar in the first set, except for the bit where I just, asked them, would you like to win the game, actually? Because I've got this winning position, but I'm not particularly fond of it. And yeah, that was Squee. And at the moment, I'm thinking I'm going to play Squee week 1 post MH3, just to see how shit it is against that bauble. But yeah, if you enjoy this sort of thing, let me know. I just didn't record it just because of a large amount of life. But yeah, back to recording soon. I'm going to hope... So MH3 drops on the 11th. That's in a few days' time from now. And then I'm hoping to get a video with Dredge, a video with Squee, and a video with maybe even a brew out prior to the NYSC, which is later this month, in between that time. So, alright, so that's going to be a wrap on the video, and then thanks for watching. I did enjoy the tournament. I kept it probably an above average number of 6s and 7s, 5 6s and 7s, but sometimes that's all you need, right? Some good plays, some bad plays, and generally a nice time jamming with Squee. So thank you for watching. I don't know if you noticed, but that game that I punted against Etustar in the first set is the only time in the tournament I activated Library of Alexandria for its draw card ability. So that was good. Helped me dig for outs I didn't really have. But yeah, that's going to do it. Might play a bit more Squeeze soon. And yeah, I'm going to try and drop a bunch of videos, as many as possible, before the NYSE. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, take care. See you soon. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye.